Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Chris with You Got Chris and Cameras, and for all my new users or new viewers, welcome. Glad to have you. Glad to have everyone here. So I decided not to have any intros per se. Nothing wrong with them, but I decided it's not my thing, and instead I'd like to use these first 20 to 30 seconds to go over with, what's been going on, with any recap on last videos, or to inform you guys of any giveaways or to remind you about those types of things. I think I found that would be more beneficial, for both of us. In this episode, we're gonna take a closer look at a fan favorite and a lens that is admired by people who know about it, and people who later find out about it, they're blown away by what a value this lens offers, and that is the 40mm M-Rokkor f2 by Minolta. You can see how tiny it is, and this is even without me taking off the lens cap and the rear lens cap. So I'll show you in a bit just how tiny this thing can get. This is a lens that was co-engineered by Leica and Minolta in the early or late 70s. If I'm wrong about that, please someone down below in the comments correct me. And what came to fruition was not only this lens, but a series of lenses and cameras, which are the Minolta CL and later on the Minolta CLE, its successor. Alongside the M-Rokkors came the 28mm f2.8 and also the 90mm f4. Phenomenal lenses, very light, very robust, and almost put Leica out of business because these things were just that great. And both Minolta and Leica made their own versions. So you have three versions of these lenses. This updated CLE version that I have, the original CL version, and then you have the Leica Summicron 40mm f2. So Minolta and Leica, please do another collaboration. We really need that in 2024. I think everybody would enjoy that. But I'm not sure if Minolta still exists in the lens making business. If someone please let us know, that would be awesome. So now I'm gonna put this on the spinning stand so you could take a better look at it instead of me yapping and just showing it to you. And then you'll see how tiny it really is. It's amazing how powerful and how light this lens is in such a tiny package. Check this out. This is how tiny it is. That right there is in Leica world, actually in any 35mm format photography, tiny. And yes, you might be wondering, oh, but it's 40mm, why would I need that? In my opinion, 40mm is the sweet spot between 35 and 50. This is your everyday lens. This is honestly, if you're on a budget or for whatever reason, you just want to shoot with one lens, this is the lens I recommend. Just by how tiny, how light, and it gives out gorgeous performance. Remember, co-engineered Leica and Minolta, the powerhouses of the lens and camera world back in the 70s, 80s, and just phenomenal performance. I believe the CLE version that I have here got updated with instead of a circular focus tab, they used this square one with a little grip on it, which I honestly prefer. Much easier to grab from both sides. As you can see, it is kind of like an arrow shaped. And I believe that it also got updated coatings, a bit more modern, nothing in comparison with today's lenses with their coatings, but for 1970s, 80s, it was top-notch technology back then. Aside from that, all three versions have the same internals. You hear that? Very firm. You really cannot tell the difference in quality between the Leica version and these Minolta versions. On the market, like eBay, Facebook Marketplace, Fred Miranda, all those places, these lenses have never really gone up much in value. They've always been around 300 to 500 bucks. You want a minty one with a box and everything, 500 bucks plus for the Minolta versions. If you really want the Leica name on it, the Lights name on it, it'll cost you anywhere between 600 all the way to 1,000. If you want it boxed with its hood and everything, yeah, closer to $1,000. But if you're okay with a Minolta on your Leica body or on your CLE or CL, then this is the lens to go with. I personally recommend the updated CLE version, just because it's a bit easier to use this, but of course that's a personal preference. I've handled both of them and I decided to get the CLE version. Alright, enough of me yapping, let's get it on the spin stand. Just as promised, I have here the Minolta 40mm on the spinning stand, and wow, what a gorgeous lens. I really like the orangeness of its coating compared to modern lenses which have more of a bluer optical coating on them. Also, this is a black paint lens, but not Leica's black paint, which is now called glossy black paint, but it is anodized with a black sheen to it. It's very low profile, very similar to Leica's sheen that they use now. Additionally, this lens has a filter diameter of 40.5 millimeters, which is honestly an awkward filter size. Unfortunately, if you're going to shoot film with this and you're going to use black and white film and you want to use your red, yellow, orange filters, you're gonna have to buy a special set specifically for this lens. The number of aperture blades are 10, they are straight, and it has 6 elements in 4 groups, and it is around 0.8 to 0.7, the closest focus you could use. And as mentioned before, it is for the Leica M, which is actually great news as it's one of the most adaptable setups you have. So with an adapter, you could throw it on a Nikon, you could throw it on a Canon, but most people tend to use them on Sony bodies. So you have great flexibility with this lens, and wow. Once again, it's really great looking. I love this tiny lens. It is 25 millimeters tall, and we are gonna do a comparison of how that looks against other lenses and also other things, so you have a better idea exactly just how tiny this lens is. Here we have the 40mm Minolta up against the Summilux 35mm reissue. Not the original, I wish I had that one, but we have the reissue here. And as we could see, they're both around the same height. I'm not sure exactly which one is taller. That's a technical specification I don't have. If you know it, please let us know down in the comment sections. But just from looking at it, they're both about the same. We could see that the Summilux is a bit wider, but not by much. They're very close. The main difference between both of these lenses, as we'll see later in another part of the video, is their weight. That is worlds apart. You could really tell the difference between the heft of the Summilux, which has more brass in it, versus the more aluminum Minolta. The reason I put these two up together as an example is the Summilux is 35mm and the Minolta is 40mm. They're very close in the field of view. Also because it's 1.4 versus f2, which is just one stop away. So it's pretty close on. And also the size is very similar. You don't get much of a difference, but what little you do makes a huge difference depending on what type of photography you shoot. If you do snapshot photography and just throw on the lens onto your camera and you take it out, it makes a huge difference, especially if you're just going one lens, one camera. Here we have our Minolta 40mm up against the Leica Summicron dual range. For those of you who don't know, the Summicron means f2. They both are technically Summicrons, f2s. So basically you have a 1950s lens, which is the older Summicron here, versus the a bit newer 1970s technology 40mm. So as you can see, it's a huge difference. One is almost double the size of the other. And I'd like to mention that back in the 50s, Leica really cared a lot about quality. All brass construction, this thing is a tank. It weighs almost as much as like a film camera. Very heavy. So unless you love 50mm and you swear by it and that's all you look to shoot, you're gonna go with the 50mm. But the 40mm is a nice alternative. Right in between 35 and 50, I think that's where the Minolta shines. Here we have another angle. Both are f2 as I mentioned before. Just look at how much longer the Summicron is, the Leica. Although silver does have my heart, I really do love silver lenses. Some people swear by black on black. Everybody has their own taste and preferences. All right, let's let it spin one more time. These are two classics right up against each other. All right, and let's go to our last comparison, which is more for fun. Up here next, we have, of course, our Minolta up against 5 pieces of Ritz crackers stacked up. So if you wondered exactly how tall is this lens, in real life terms, they are 5 Ritz crackers tall. I would like to clarify, these are the whole grain version, so I'm not sure if these are taller or shorter than the original version, so take it with a grain of salt. And of course, please do not try to eat the Minolta, as it is made out of aluminum and will probably end up in aluminum poisoning if that's a thing. But of course, please help yourself to the Ritz. Those are very delicious, and no, this is not sponsored by Ritz. It's not. Ritz, if you're out there and you like what you see, please, send me a message. Welcome back. So now you're probably wondering, so how does it look like on a body? I'm going to show you exactly how it looks on the new Leica M11 glossy black paint, which is still a mouthful to say. Hopefully someone from the last video comes up with a better name, and maybe Leica might take a few points from it. So let's pop this baby in right there. Took the lens cap off, and that's how it looks. Very stealthy, right? Except for that glossy black paint. So this is just to see. I'll make sure it zooms in digitally. The finishes don't match, obviously, because the paint is different. But look how tiny it looks. And it's so light compared to like the Sumilux Reissue, which is more brass than aluminum. So it is extremely light and tiny. This makes it the perfect street photography lens. If you're into 40mm, of course, most street photographers prefer something wider. But back in the 70s, or even before then, most camera manufacturers were using 40mm. That used to be the golden standard. You had the Canonets, you had the Minoltas. Most point and shoots were 40mm. For example, you got the Rollie I have there. That's also a 40mm 2.8. That was the gold standard back then. Who knows why they chose to get off of it? But in my opinion, it's to make more money, of course. Why one lens to rule them all when you could sell people more lenses? Now you're probably wondering, great, you showed me the lens and it's on a camera, so why should I get this? I'm not saying you should get it, I'm just showing you who it's built for and how it looks on this body. What I could tell you is just that it's a great lens for almost, I would say, snapshot photography. 40mm is right between 35 and 50, as I said before. And if you're an amateur photographer just getting into it, you don't have a new Leica M11 glossy black paint because they are expensive and you're more on a budget, this is a lens I recommend to everyone just because of how affordable it is. It's between, as I said before, between 300 to 500 bucks, the Minolta version. If you want Leica, of course, that's a bit more. But that's the main reason I tell people to get it, because you get Leica performance for Minolta prices, and that's hard to beat. I use this lens a lot just because how light it is, and honestly because of that price point. Because let's say if I do get robbed, instead of being out of $4,000 for the Sumilux Reissue, I'm only out of 400 bucks for this. But of course, the smart photographer gets insurance for their lenses and their cameras. And no, I don't have anyone to link or show you where to get insurance. I might make that a video later because it's something you really should consider. Professional, hobbyist, whatever, definitely get your gear insured for peace of mind if in the unfortunate event you do lose it or God forbid you get robbed or something. And I prefer to use something that I'm comfortable with losing with. And honestly, this lens does not disappoint performance-wise. I'm actually going to show you some pictures I took with it. Not the most recent ones, but they are taken with this exact lens. I've owned this lens for about closer to 5 years now. This is a lens you buy and you keep as something that is dependable and always there. This is a lens you don't sell just because of how good the price is and just how good it performs. And I'm not going to get technical with my photos. I'm going to tell you on what camera they were shot. If it was shot on film, I'll tell you what film, what speed, if it was pushed or pulled. I do write down, of course, what camera, the film, so those types of things. I will tell you what model camera I used. And yeah, let's take a quick look at a few of them. Hey, you're back. I hope you like my images. I try my best, and I also shoot for fun. I don't shoot professionally, maybe one day, but for now it's just my creative outlet. And any criticism or any tips, please put them in the comments below. I'd love to know what people think of my snapshots. That's what they essentially are. And if you have any questions about the Minolta, please reach out. I'll be more than happy to go over anything with you. Or if you require any images or any other stuff, please check it out. I'll make sure to post all of my images on a website soon. I might use Flickr for now, but I'll try and make my website and post my actual images I take with these lenses so people could actually see the DNGs. Let's do a quick recap on this lens. So it's a great bargain. For 400 bucks, it can't be beat. Well, technically it can, but we'll go over that later. It's super tiny, it weighs very little, and it's just unobtrusive. It's very sleek and the underdog basically of the Leica world in my opinion. There are newer options. Voigtlander popped out its 40mm 2.8, I believe it is. And there's also the Voigtlander 40mm 1.4, which is, I believe, its direct competitor as well. You could get those lenses too, but if you want that classic Leica look for Minolta money, this is honestly your only option. And it's a great option. This is really not even the best kept secret because this lens has been at this price for as much time as I've been shooting, which is closer to 10-15 years. The Summicrons have gone up in price, but the Minoltas have always stayed steady, so don't be in a rush, shop around, and well, all good things must come to an end. That's the end of this episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so grateful for all of you who subbed, for all the views, for all the support on Reddit. Really, it means a lot to me. This is my creative outlet, and I feel like I've been seen, and it's a very heartwarming feeling. I hope you like my work. If you have any tips or any recommendations for my videos, I know my background is a bit blank. I have this poster I love that I'm gonna try and hang soon for the next episode. And don't forget, I still have my surprise at the end of the first video. I'm not gonna say what it is, but if you haven't checked that out, please do go check it out. At least if you don't want to see all 30 minutes, which I understand is a lot, at least go to the end and see the surprise. I'd really like to get that done, a gift to the community per se. And if you have any comments, suggestions, please leave them down in the comments section. And let me give you a sneak peek of what's coming. As you saw before, I have a bunch of lenses. I'd really like to do a review or in-depth of the Canon 50mm Dream lens. The Voigtlander 35 1.7 is spherical, in my opinion, is the most underrated spherical 35mm lens out there. It's just not talked about, not spoken about, but the performance is stellar on that. And the one that I'm most excited about is the Rollei 35 AF. I ordered a black one. I pre-ordered it back then. I'm just waiting for it to arrive. Let me know if you ordered that camera. Has yours shipped? Mine hasn't shipped yet. I'm so excited for that. As you saw, I have a 35mm Rollei right there, the SE. I also have one in a shiny black. So once I get that, I'll do a review with that, compare it to the original, and stack them up, see how they are. Well, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for viewing again. And if you like my stuff, please like and subscribe. See you on the next one.